That sounds like part of the book is to guide people beyond just kind of the dollars and cents of retirement and to start kind of evaluating, reflecting on their values and the impact that they want to leave behind.
Yeah, that's what it's kind of centered around, really, to take a framework and put together something that's just not about money. You need obviously money to have, to do things in life, but a lot of times money has the opposite effect where it creates a lot of conflict and resentment and creates a whole cascade of issues. I think the main focus I have in terms of I have really 12 points. The first point is really focus on family. The second really is focus on your health. And I think I get to about five or six, and that's where you start talking about money. I think it's extremely important to, because that's the first thing people think about is money, retirement. It's important, no question about it. But you have to think about all these other things, because if you don't think about those things, you're going to be spending a lot more money in retirement because of all the health issues, as an example, and you're not going to have the retirement that I think that you would probably want.
I think that's really good advice to focus on the values first and kind of the money second,
Mhm.
because I think it would seem that when you do that, there's going to be more money in the long run.
Yeah, I think again, that's part of it is really it's like I said, it's really retiring with a purpose. And it may, your purpose now may be different later, but really having something where you can kind of work off of. And you and your spouse don't have to do the same exact thing, which is the other thing. I think it's important to have separate hobbies, separate friends, separate groups, but have kind of something, obviously a merger in the middle as well. And then just have someone that's in a similar situation to you, or have an advisor, someone that can, like I mentioned, hold you accountable or just provide feedback because I think a lot of times trying to do something on your own like this that you've just accumulated, I compare it to like moving where you've lived somewhere for 30 years. You have all these things. How in the world do you organize it? How do you all get it together? Well, a lot of cases you just sit there and you don't do anything. It's almost like a paralysis. And so, putting a plan together, doing it over time, not rushing it, and not giving yourself a hard time about, I haven't saved enough. Well, you can work through that. There's only so many things you can do, but you can work, whether you work longer, work part time, whether you try to just not spend as much, really the more eyes wide open you are, the better.
So for someone who has, say, 5 or 10 years to retirement, what's one thing they can do this week to prepare more wisely?
So I think the first thing that they should do is if they're working and they're working at their employer and the employer has a 401k or 403b or retirement plan, the first thing they can do is make sure they're getting the employer match. So they're putting in enough money to take advantage of their employer's match that their employer is giving them. I think that's extremely important. The other thing that I tell people and over, it's important to go in every so often, whether it's because of a life change or just making sure it's accurate, and going in and looking at all your beneficiaries. If your IRAs, your 401ks, anything, your life insurance, anything that has a beneficiary designation on it, just take an hour or two and just go into each one and make sure it's the beneficiary, everything is up to date and it's what you want. Those are a couple simple things that are easy to kind of get you, to a target and just create a lot of, whether it's a saving side or whether it's just inadvertent, not changing your beneficiary and it ends up going to your ex-wife or someone you don't want, which you'd be surprised is more common than what most people think.